Once upon a time, not so very long ago, there was a young girl of noble birth. Her father, the 8th Earl Spencer, had inherited a great estate with land stretching across Northamptonshire. The Spencers were once among the wealthiest and most powerful in the land, and their success had been rewarded with an earldom and a coat of arms with the motto, God defend the right. In her childhood, she should have been protected by fairy godmothers who would have armed her against the tyrants of this world. She should have been blessed with great cunning, greater brains, less humility. Instead, she was given Rain Spencer as her stepmother and Barbara Cartland as her step-grandmother, the greatest myth spinner of all, who said that every story had a happy ending and every prince was loving and kind. There was no one to instruct her in the cruel ways of the world she was destined to enter.
The wedding of Viscount Althorp and Miss Frances Roche was attended by the American ambassador, Mr. Winthrop Aldrich. And here are the pages and the bridesmaids. The Duchess of Kent came with her daughter, Princess Anne.
Of course, Diana should have known better. She'd already witnessed at first hand a fairy tale wedding fall apart in front of her eyes. Her own mother, 18-year-old Frances Roche, had walked up the aisle of Westminster Abbey with 30-year-old Johnny Spencer. It was the wedding of the year, witnessed by kings and queens and tabloid journalists. The union of two families, watched over by the family who would soon claim the youngest daughter as their own. But when the marriage collapsed and the custody battles began, Diana's grandmother sided with her own son-in-law and testified against her daughter. So Johnny won and Francis lost. He had the power, he had the title. This is a feudal world. So custody went to the father. And with the two eldest children away at boarding school, Diana and her younger brother Charles, like the children in Hansel and Gretel, were left to make their own way. She kept a picture of Prince Charles over her bed. No doubt she imagined marrying him. What girl from her background didn't? He would be someone who could protect her. And the fantasy wasn't that far-fetched. Her family, after all, mixed in royal circles. Her elder sister Sarah even dated Prince Charles for a while. And when the king-to-be celebrated his 30th birthday at Buckingham Palace in 1978, Sarah was invited to go. But much to everyone's surprise, so was her younger sister Diana. Cinderella was off to the ball. But the prince Diana dreamed of knew little of love. He'd been brought up by nannies, sent off to boarding school before he was 10, homesick and miserable. No fairy tale fantasies for this young royal. Duty was everything. In those days, queens didn't cuddle their princelings, certainly not in public. Diana, on the other hand, knew all about love. She'd been giving it all her life, comforting her younger brother when he missed his mother, comforting herself with her family of guinea pigs and hamsters. So when Charles and Diana met again, some 18 months later, she knew exactly what to say to the unhappy prince, who was mourning the death of his great-uncle, Lord Mountbatten. That night, the spell was cast. The engagement between Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer was announced on the 24th of February 1981. Across the land, there was great rejoicing, for we'd lived for many years with discontent. There'd been high unemployment, race riots, strikes. It was gloomy. Our monarchy was stuffy and remote. Princess Anne and Captain Mark Phillips were hardly the stuff of dreams. We needed a real princess. And here she was, a kindergarten teacher, innocent and pure. So pure that when the sun shone through her skirt and the pressmen stole their pictures of her long, long legs, we felt instantly protective. She was ours. Cinderella had been chosen over her smarter and more sophisticated sisters because the prince, good and kind, saw straight to the goodness of her heart.
Do you find it a very daunting experience that yesterday you were a nanny looking after children, now you're about to marry the Prince of Wales, and one day in all likelihood be Queen? It's a tremendous change for someone, if I may say, of 19.
It is, but I've had a small run-up to it all in the last 6 months. And next to Prince Charles, I know I can't go wrong. He's there with me.
The prince was not as pure as we all thought. Like the husband in that other fairy story, Bluebeard, he imposed one stern condition. She could share in his titles, in his lands, and in his riches, but she must never enter the one forbidden room. For in that room there was a secret, and that secret was Camilla. She was marrying into a family where to obey was everything. But she was a modern woman, and the word obey was no longer one that modern women understood. Royal marriages, as they had always been, were about producing heirs and towing the line. They were not about love, and no one told her this. The night before the engagement was announced, Diana packed her bags, said goodbye to her friends, and set off for her new life. Her bodyguard turned to her and said, "I just want you to know that this is the last night of freedom ever in the rest of your life, so make the most of it." Did she understand that? Did it make her tremble? Already she was the talisman of the paparazzi who followed her wherever she went. Maybe she believed that once through those palace doors, she would be safe. Oh, Diana, how false that would turn out to be. Clarence House, home of the Queen Mother, turned out to be a far more dangerous place than her old flat in Coleherne Court. When she arrived, a letter was waiting for her. It was from Charles's friend, Camilla, inviting her for lunch. Camilla, it seemed, knew all about the engagement before it was announced. In fact, she knew a great deal about the prince. So when Camilla asked Diana whether she planned to spend time hunting with him at his country house at Highgrove, Diana began to wonder. What was Camilla's role in all of this? She seemed to be in charge, but could that be true? In fairy tales there are always warnings, but sometimes we just don't stop to listen.
Can you find the words to sum up how you feel today, both of you?
Difficult to find that sort of word, isn't it, really? Just delighted and happy. And I'm amazed that she's been brave enough to take me on.
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
Yes.
Whatever in love means, Charles said when the happy couple were interviewed on TV. Inwardly, Diana shuddered.
This was Lady Diana's first taste of royal walkabout, and as you might expect from a former nursery school teacher, the children came in for special attention.
There was no one there to help her, to talk her through the rigours of her new role. Charles was often away. Clarence House was peopled by old women who didn't seem that interested in this new young addition to the household. Her old friends, only 2 miles away as the crow flies, were now out of bounds. And what, after all, could they really tell her that would help?
No one harboured any illusions about just who the crowd had braved the rain to see. And Lady Diana didn't disappoint those anxious to see her with her prince. His lady had well and truly arrived in a manner few of those present were likely to forget in a hurry.
4 months before the wedding, Diana met Princess Grace of Monaco at a charity gala, and she found herself pouring out her fears. "Don't worry," said the elder princess. "It will get a lot worse." I wonder if she thought of running then, but it was already too late. In March, Charles set off to Australia for a 5-week tour. As she watched his plane leave, Diana began to cry. Only later did we learn the reason for those tears. Hours before, when she and Charles were making last-minute preparations at Buckingham Palace, the phone rang. It was Camilla. And then the next bombshell. About a fortnight before the wedding, Diana noticed a parcel in one of the offices of Buckingham Palace, and despite the protestations of the prince's staff, she opened it. Inside, there was a bracelet with the letters G and F entwined. Gladys and Fred, Charles and Camilla's nicknames for each other. On the day of the rehearsals at St. Paul's, Charles took the bracelet he'd had made to Camilla, leaving his bodyguard behind. He wanted to be alone. Diana, meanwhile, went to her sisters and told them she couldn't go through with the wedding. Bad luck, Dutch, they joked. Your face is already on the tea towels. July the 29th, 1981, the great day. Here was our princess, looking so beautiful, we all gasped. But did we notice that she was already wasting away? From the time she'd had her first fitting for the wedding dress to the day of the marriage, her waist shrank from 29 to 23 inches. So she married her prince, and for us, her fairy tale really began. Did we all believe that it would be happily ever after? Were women fooled once again in falling for the same old myth? Well, yes, we were for a while. But what actually happens after those immortal lines? They lived happily ever after. Personally, I've always wondered what happened to Snow White and Cinderella after their weddings. We're never told, are we? And perhaps you're wondering by now what this fairy story has to do with greatness anyway. Well, the tale, you see, has only just begun. Some people find glory in battle, others find it in struggle. And it was in struggle that Diana would one day become glorious. But at this stage in the story, when she had just married her prince, we were happy to buy into the myth of happy ever after. Which one of us doesn't want to believe in the supremacy of happiness? How were we to know that when Charles and Diana entertained the Egyptian president to dinner during their honeymoon on the Royal Yacht Britannia, that her new husband wore a pair of cufflinks, the two C's interlocked, Charles and Camilla, and that Diana noticed? At Balmoral, she gave us the official version of their marriage.
How are you enjoying married life?
Highly recommend it.
I highly recommend it, she said, and we felt glad for her. Diana's world was peopled with kings and queens and courtiers. She lived in palaces and drove around in carriages, and yet at midnight the wand was waved, and the public beauty was transformed back into the serving girl who threw up her dinner as an act of powerlessness and rage at her failure to win the love she so deeply craved. And it wasn't long before we heard rumours that all was not well in the royal marriage. Stories began to appear in the newspapers that the royal couple were rowing. The press wondered if Diana was anorexic. The palace denied it, but the news footage told another story.
These are the headlines which have aroused royal displeasure, the reports claiming that the princess could be suffering from anorexia nervosa. What started it all was Saturday's Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall, when the princess arrived 5 minutes late, the newspapers claiming Prince Charles had said she was ill, though this was later firmly denied.
A psychiatrist arrived in secret at the palace. How she must have felt that she had failed. The House of Windsor didn't indulge in feelings, and now their most famous daughter was having to pour out her soul to strangers. Horror. In hindsight, it's fantastic how long the public sham seemed to go on. After days out smiling and laughing with the welcoming crowds, she went back home to eat solitary dinners in front of the TV. the woman the world most wanted to see ate beans on toast in front of Coronation Street. We didn't know it then. We thought her life was one long party. But Charles must have known. And what did he do? Nothing, apparently. Her life really was a fairy tale, and fairy tales aren't happy little yarns. They're dark, symbolic stories. I think that's perhaps why we've been so disturbed by them and why we keep telling them to ourselves over and over again, over so many years. I think that's perhaps why we're so disturbed by the story of Diana. Her life was completely riddled with symbols. After all, what could be more symbolic than bulimia? Like Hansel and Gretel gorging on the gingerbread house, Diana ate for comfort. She began to look for solutions in strange places, astrologers and mystics and clairvoyants. She was, in the old-fashioned way of things, wandering the market square, talking to the soothsayers. And in the background lurked Camilla, a secret the three of them shared. A secret like the blood on Bluebeard's key that could never be washed away.